These throwbacks are trending this week.
And I'd give up forever to touch you, 'cause I know that you feel me somehow. You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be, and I don't.
Yeah, they're all over our feeds. They're all over TikTok. They're all over Instagram. Before we even get into that, can I have a minute? I've been posting about this. The song Iris by Goo Goo Dolls. I don't know who started this trend. I don't know if we ever will. The song Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls, I didn't need to hear it as much as I did on the radio in the 90s. And I'm someone who bought their first CD because I loved that song name. That song name is great. It's not that this is not a Goo Goo Dolls hate message. It's just of all the songs, we could have used name.
I don't even know any other songs by the Goo Goo Dolls. The only reason I know this song is because it was in that movie City of Angels, which I
Oh
also
yeah.
never saw, but it was like on music videos and stuff. But we all fucking hated this song in the 90s. So I don't
No,
know
we didn't like
why
it. We
this
didn't
one
like
was
it.
chosen. But it is feeling a little bit nostalgic because, we're seeing all of these celebrities that some of them we haven't seen in a long time, and they
Mhm.
look quite different. And I
They
feel
do.
like when I watched this, like I saw Jonathan Taylor Thomas's, who
Oh
if
my
you were
God.
he was like on the cover of like Tiger Beat magazine.
Yeah.
He definitely looks our age now. And so
Yeah.
I feel like this trend made me feel better, at least about my aging.
Me
I don't want to
too.
sound mean, but straight up, it made me feel better about the way that I've aged.
Me too. As someone who grew up in the 90s, who was in basically college and like freshman year of life and stuff. Yeah, it's definitely trippy to see because time marched on and I didn't realize the 90s were that long ago. How many decades was that ago?
3.
Okay. So, and I feel like it's trending for two reasons. Number one, obviously the elephant in the room is of course Love Story, which we're about to talk about. But I think it's also trending because it's a great opportunity for people who were total stars in the 90s. They have such a big sizzle reel to look back on that it's fun for them and it's definitely fun for their fans. But this is a very soft plea, but I'm going to get angrier as this continues. Stop using the song. Change the song. Pivot. I know it's a trend. I know it's easy to just use the song. The lyrics, I gave up. I'll give up forever to touch you. What? If you want to use a Goo Goo Doll song, which I don't know why, no disrespect to the Goo Goo Dolls, use name.
Do you remember his hair? Do you remember
Yeah.
the highlights and like dignified mullet that he had going
A
on?
dignified mullet.
It's
A
really
dignified.
it wasn't anything else. There was a lot of extremely good music at that time that I think people are still pulling influences from today. Blasphemy that is the song that was where we like can get a little conspiratorial on who decided to put this trend out. And
Let's go.
all of a sudden, one day, every single celebrity was posting this. Like, this is
Weird.
an ad campaign. Like, I'm serious.
It's
And
weird.
I feel like, we can go down a lot of rabbit holes, but really, this trend, though, talking about the 90s, it's making me
Mhm.
remember how much better it was. Like,
Yes.
sincerely, I was in high school during the 90s. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have social media. Nobody was the most documentation we were doing were those little like cameras where they weren't even real cameras. You just turned them into like the CVS and they printed the pictures for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There isn't a lot of like photographic and video evidence of us during that time. And that was also a
No.
time we weren't on the phone like we are now. People weren't texting all day, every day. We were like meeting at the bowling alley and smoking cigarettes in the parking lot. Like things were just so different then. And I want to argue, I think it was better.
It
I
was
don't
so
know.
much better. And I think that, I mean, part of the reason it's catching on is I think they're trying to just steal all our information. I think they are just getting more and more images of us for data collection. That's one thing. The other conspiracy theory I'm going to jump into that we were talking about this week a lot, I do think that people are being pink pilled. by a sanitized. I mean, I don't know if you've caught up with Love Story. It's now turned into a horror story. No spoilers. But I think that I think we forget that Carolyn PBK, as everyone's calling her, she was a party girl. She was, yes, she had a clean girl look. But she was also had the tousled hair and she was out and about. And she was very much also a creature of the 90s, as was JFK Jr. I mean, look at his style. So much of his style came from hip hop culture. He was not just walking around super preppy, but I feel like if you go on Instagram, all these people who blog about fashion are just cutting out the uber preppy clean girl Carolyn Bessette stuff, and then they're clipping out the preppy, prep school JFK Jr. stuff. When I think what they're doing is they're giving us a very sanitized, very
Whitewashing. They're whitewashing it.
They're whitewashing. When these people were down, they chose to live downtown. They did not live on the Upper East Side. They were out of the clubs. Until they started getting harassed by the paparazzi, they were out about town downtown. And that's knowing the 90s, 90s uptown Upper East Side was where people like them, or at least where JFK Jr. belonged. He chose to live in Tribeca at a time where, by the way, this is, those are people who don't know New York City, but now downtown is super rich and elite. But back then, Tribeca, Soho, these were places where mostly artists lived. It was not populated by these super rich people. Having a loft in Tribeca was super off the beaten path and edgy and artistic. But I do feel like if you're looking at Instagram now, and we all are, unfortunately, we're getting thrown this very, I think, pink-pilled version of her that is they're trying to make fetch happen, clean girl spring, how to dress streamlined and classic and classy. And I just feel like with everything else going on in this fascist state, it's sending out alarm bells, because that was not the full 90s, and that was not even CBK.
No, when we think about the 90s, this is, I think, when the youth, we were all hanging out together. The punks were hanging out with the people that were into underground hip hop. We were all partying together. There were some Nazi type of guys, at least in the area where I grew up, but for the most part, we were so mixed and everybody was just into the same things. And what we're seeing, I think, with especially this Carolyn Bessette stuff, she's thin, she's white, she has long blonde hair, she has crushing blue eyes. She married a prize, and I beg to differ. I think she was the prize. She was independent, she had a career, she was doing her own fucking thing, and they're trying to turn her into this Pollyanna type of vibe to show these young women that if you do things like this, you too could maybe marry a celebrity or a politician. And it's they've taken her power completely out of it, while at the same time blaming her for the plane crash, saying that it was because of a manicure. And it's just
God,
the story and of the way that men and the media twist things into something. And I'm sure you're feeling the same as I am, but the older that I get and the more that I learn about all these things that are happening in our government and around the world, it's that everything that they teach us about being a woman and the things we're supposed to want, we're just indoctrinated. And they're doing the same thing by repurposing this Carolyn Bessette to make everyone think that this blonde, wave thin supermodel look is what's vibing, and it's not, because the white birth population is going down.
Yeah. And that's why they're throwing this on us, and that's why they banned abortion, and that's why they're trying to make the whole trad wife thing happen, right? So, and I do think that now that I'm one episode from the season finale, and I don't want to give too, everyone knows what happens, but in terms of the portrayal of it, the episode I just watched does unpack her losing her entire identity because she married him. So in defense of the show, it does show that, but there's a difference because of clips in social media. There's a difference between watching the series and then seeing what's on social media, right? Just like people clip a second from a political speech and then you feel like you watched the whole thing. The problem isn't the show. The show's problematic in its own right, obviously. The last episode I watched is exploring how this love story is actually a horror story, because she gave up her autonomy. She gave up her career. She gave up her freedom. She gave up her joie de vivre to be married to Kennedy, which she was her mom warned her about it, by the way, at least according to the show. And she's kind of lost herself. And was it worth love? And like, I would say no, but that's me. I'm a little cynical. I think the message to young girls should be from this show is that never give up your dreams for a man. Never give up your career for a man, for love, right? Right? Because
Never give up
it
anything
goes away.
ever, because men would throw us to the wolves if it would further their career or their bank account or their social status with men. And I think that's where we kind of see the difference between men and women. Women are so selfless, and we raise the family, and we give up all of our dreams to bear the children. And that's the ass backwards way of thinking about all of it. When you think about patriarchy and what they've forced upon us by giving us baby dolls by the time we're 2.5 and giving us little kitchens to practice in, if marriage was good for us, they wouldn't allow us to do it. And so we're in a position where they're trying to repackage and repurpose what it looks like to be a housewife and a stay-at-home mom. Meanwhile, the SAVE Act and the 19th Amendment and all of these things are on the line. So they're giving young women this politicized, whitewashed version of what they think they should aspire to be. Ladies, it is the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite of everything they want to give us. They don't give us anything because it's good for us, right? Like anything they want us to do, we should do the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. And I just saw an article about how actually it's the patriarchy and like white feminism that basically convinced people that partnering off and abandoning community was the way to go. When in fact, when people do that, they end up hurting society, right? Think about how many people who they were giving up some of their free time to help out the community. And then they get married and have kids, and society has convinced them, and it's mostly like white society, the white patriarchy has convinced them that what matters now more are your 2 kids and your husband and your house and your white picket fence.
Your
House
tax,
hunter. Yeah. What did you say?
tax dollars.
Yeah, tax dollars, right? Exactly. And so ultimately what that does is it helps support capitalism, it helps support the patriarchy, and it takes away from the community. And I think we're seeing that today, right? Look at how destroyed our communities are. Look at how fragmented we are. Look at how disconnected we are. We're fighting with each other online, offline, everywhere. And that's because white people especially have propagated this idea that the goal is to leave the community, partner off, put yourself behind your fence, and say fuck y'all to everyone else.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, what kind of community do white people have, right? Like outside of, like, when you think about it, churches, which are some of the most evil, devilish places I can think of. That is one of the only places where, as an adult in my 40s, I see white people in community with each other, and I don't even think it's a good community to have with each other, but where else do you really see it?
That's actually a really good point. Like private social clubs?
You see people who, when their kids are in elementary school and they're playing sports together and stuff, the parents kind of do community with each other because they have to by default, because their kids are part of this system that they're growing them up to just help support Uncle Sam as well, like in these Cracker Jack, communities, neighborhoods where every house looks the same and, all the kids are wearing the same shoes and all of that. But like outside of those 2 spaces, show me somewhere where white people have community, because we don't.
I can't name it. We don't have it.
No.
And it's by design.
Country clubs. So community, I think, is reserved for the upper class or like elite white, but for the rest of us, I don't really see much of that.
And I just thought of something. I mean, we're really mostly talking about culture in this podcast these days, but it's all connected, right? Because you know where I saw white folk finding community again? Trump rallies in 2015 and 2016.
Here we go. Talking about white culture and preserving white culture. Newsflash, we don't have white culture.
No.
We have no culture. None.
But they were coming to, did you notice that though? It was people, when people talked about Trump rallies, it was about Trump. Obviously, he was bringing them together for his campaign. But so much of it was like the tailgating, the dancing, the DJ, the American music that they were, quote unquote, American music they were playing even before he got on stage. There was so much community building around this man, right? And so the MAGA movement was very much created because there's a hole in there's a lack of community among white people, especially working class, middle class white people, right?
I think he gave community to people that have deep-seated hatred.
Of
So
course.
he gave, you know, hatred a community to thrive. And that's why I think he sees us as the enemies, because we aren't filled with hate.
Because we want a multiracial democracy, which back to the 90s, okay, yes, major problems in the 90s, right? This was Rodney King was beat. We had so much racial strife in the cities and also the suburbs, obviously. So many bad things went down. However, I do believe that this was the Clinton era. There was more of a push for a multiracial democracy. I experienced it in going out in New York City, in going out in high school, the friend groups I had. Like you were saying, I do feel like we were less fragmented. Was it great? No, obviously not. Like, I'm not saying things were ideal. I do feel like there was a hopefulness in that time period, and it wasn't political to say that we should all come together. And this was the first time you were seeing hip hop on MTV. I do feel like we were on this long road to a multiracial democracy, but like you could almost see it getting closer. Obviously, you had those moments of Rodney King and being like, oh no, we have a long ways to go. Today, I would say that I can't even see it. Like, where is it? Right? Like,
Where they're dragging us back like as hard as they can. And I think they're using social media 1000% as a tool to do that. When we look at early social media like MySpace, which I'm sorry, I'm going to go there, that was the best social platform that we've ever had. We could use our individuality in writing our own code for our page, but we could put music on there. We could, you know, design it the way that we wanted to. The top 8, you know, like
I love that.
Like the social hierarchy level is like if you landed on someone's, you know, top 8 or whatever. But we also weren't on MySpace all day, every day.
No, I was going to say that.
And it was just such a different relationship with social media to what it is now. It's just a propaganda machine, like full of bots and all of these fake things. Like these nefarious forces aren't even using real people to divide. It's just, we're just in such a different time frame from the 90s.
Yeah, and that's why it makes sense that people are glamorizing, but let's glamorize it in the full form. Like his was Riot Girl. It was the beginning of like all these amazing female artists coming out and like just singing about what it was like to be a woman, like for real, what it was like. There was like, I mean, yes, there was like the sanitized Spice Girls version, but there was also the badass like L7 and all those bands. I mean, it was a good time.
It was a great time. It was a great time, you know, and as I watch these celebrities by the dozens, I'm going to say hundreds. I've seen hundreds of these videos, people that I haven't thought about in 25 years.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm seeing the videos of these celebrities, my first thought about it is it's interesting because all of the pictures are like Getty images or like pulled from they aren't pictures of them doing normie people things, right? They're heavily edited photos. And I think it shows someone great privilege to show themselves on social media after no one has seen them for 20 years with this epic throwback of who they were. But I guarantee you that if you go to the social platforms of all these celebrities that you're seeing, they aren't talking about the war. They're not talking about Gaza. They're not talking about what's going on in the fucking United States. And they're getting dressed up and going to the Oscars. Not even these 90s people. They aren't even getting up and going to the Oscars because their careers are well over. They're much old. I'm not knocking them, but I'm saying if you don't have a goddamn thing to say about any of the things that are going on in America, the place that awards you this celebrity, I don't want to see your fucking throwback.
Me too. And you know, and I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend Alyssa Milano, not you, because Alyssa never, since she was a child star, she's always been speaking out, whether it was the AIDS crisis to today. So But the fact that I can name one, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple others, obviously, but there's the ones that I'm seeing, not many, especially the ones who are doing the throwback. So like Alyssa, you're allowed the throwback. Everyone else, okay, thanks for the throwback. I forgot about you. How do you feel about Gaza? How do you feel about the war in Iran? How do you feel about the Epstein files? Like, do you have anything to say? I had that same thought. This is why we're friends. It was like, cool, good to see you back on your platform. Yes, you were really cute back in the day. Now what? Because you have a platform, a big enough one that still exists. And
You should be
might not,
saying something.
especially since you don't have to be worried about like, you know, not getting the next movie because they haven't been giving it to you because there's so much ageism in Hollywood. But you got people know who you are. You have nostalgia points with people. Speak the fuck out. I mean, it's almost too late, but like, hi, good to see you again. What do you have to say?
I mean, going back to last week's episode about the Oscars, Hollywood is very obviously in trouble right now. And I think that part of this campaign, which that's what I'm going to call it,
It is a
of
campaign.
all these celebrities showing up one day all over TikTok that you know they don't even know how to use TikTok. I think this is part of a psyop to like try and get people back into the movie theaters. But the problem is capitalism has made it $100 for two people to go to the fucking movies. You know, as we see the Ellisons and these other people purchase these platforms, I think we're going to see celebrities being used and propped up. And I personally am not going to use my dollars to support any movie or streaming service or studio that is silent about the things that are going on in the world today. I don't want to hear from you. Get the fuck off my screen.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.